Hey Year 10, we're looking at 7D today, which is sketching parabolas by completing the square. Mainly what you're going to be doing is sketching graphs that are in turning point form, or taking a quadratic function and making it into turning point form. They're the two key things you'll be doing. So if you look at this first example here, we've been asked to sketch this quadratic function here. Now hopefully we can recognize that this is in turning point form. So the way this is set up is really easy for us to see the turning point. It's going to be these two numbers here, except this one, the sign changes. So just by looking at this, I can see what the turning point is. So I'm going to put that key information down. So my turning point is -2 and -1. Done. But to sketch the graph, I need other things as well. I need to make sure I have the x-intercepts and the y-intercept too. Alright, so firstly I might just find the y-intercept. So I'm going to label my work so I know what I'm doing. So to find the y-intercept, I make x equals 0. So I'm going to put my rule down, except I'm going to make x equals 0 instead. As you can see, I've done just there. And that's going to end up giving us y equals 2 squared is 4, and then -1 is 3. So therefore, the y-intercept is at 0, 3. Now I write things in coordinates because we need to make sure we label our graph with coordinates. Now the other key points that we need are the x-intercepts. So again, I'm labeling my work. So I'm finding my x-intercepts here. Right, now to find the x-intercepts, I make y equals 0. So there we go, I've done that. Now I need to solve for x to find out what x equals. So I just need to get everything away from x. So this -1 here, I want that to go to the other side. So I would +1 to both sides, which gives me this. Now I want to get rid of this squared. Now the opposite to squared is square root. So I'm going to square root this side, square root this side as well. Except whenever you square root something, it's going to give you a positive and a negative answer. So the square root of 1 is 1. But it's going to be positive and -1. There we go. And the square root, the square root got rid of the squared on this side. Now this is what we have. We have +1 equals x plus 2 and -1 equals x plus 2. So I'm going to split this up so it's easy to see. 1 equals x plus 2, and we've also got -1 equals x plus 2. So let's just solve these little equations here to work out what x is. So with this one, we're going to have x equals -1, and over here we're going to have x equals -3. Now again, I want to show them as coordinates. So x is -1, y is 0, x is -3, y is 0. What I've done over here is put together all the information we need to be able to sketch the graph. Alright, now when you guys sketch graphs, it's a really good idea to stay as neat as possible by using a ruler. I don't have a ruler with me at the moment, but I'm going to try to make my lines as straight and neat as possible. Okay, that's okay, but hopefully you guys can do a little bit better with your rulers. I need to make sure I've labeled my axis. So that's the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. Alright, now what I should be doing is putting in these key points. Alright, so I know the turning point is going to be at -2, -1. So that can be, let's just say it's here. I'm going to label that -2, -1. I have a y-intercept at 3. So 3 would be up here. I'm going to label that 0, 3. And I have x-intercepts as well. I have one at -1, which will be here. And I have another one at -3, which will be over here. Now, as you can see, we can probably connect the dots here to make that parabola shape. But what I want you to recognize as well is that whatever's at the front here, if it's a positive, so this is +1 at the moment, it's going to be a smiley graph, so the tail is going to point upwards. If it's a negative, the tail is going to point downwards, so it's going to be a sad face. But you can just connect the dots and it's going to give you the shape anyway. Okay, so there's my parabola. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Right, so we've been able to sketch from turning point form. Now, I want to go down here and kind of go over something that I showed you a few lessons ago over here. So we've seen quadratic functions in this form here, expanded form, and we just use one that's in turning point form, which is just like that. Now something that we have to be able to do is get from this expanded form to turning point form, and the way we do that is by completing the square. Okay, now we're going to have a little bit of practice of that. We're going to do two just here. All right, so we've been asked to change the turning point form by completing the square. All right, now with this first one here, A, what I want you to do is just not even look at what's going on over here. What we want to do is try to create a perfect square. So hopefully you remember from a few lessons ago, a perfect square, this number here is going to be half and then squared that number. So half of 6 is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So for it to be a perfect square, we need 9 there. So what I'm actually going to do is write this again, but put the 9 there instead. Now, these two aren't the same thing, right? So this is not equal to that. So I'm not actually correct just yet. So I've added 9, haven't I? Now I want it to be the same as above. So I'm going to take my 9 away again, but I can't forget about that plus 5 that was there too. So I'm going to put my plus 5 there as well. All right, now, if you look at this line and this line, they're actually the same, aren't they? Because we've got a plus 9 and a minus 9, which just cancel each other out. Okay, that's something that we need to do. But we want to focus on this bit here. Now this bit here is the perfect square that we created. Now if you go back again a few lessons, something that we were doing was factorizing perfect squares. Now if I know it's a perfect square, what I can do is put it in brackets. If there's a plus there, it's a plus, and then I'm going to use the square root of whatever this number is, which is 3. So this here is a factorized version of this blue bit here. Okay, and I can't forget about these numbers either. So I've got minus 9 and plus 5, which gives me minus 4. Now what we have here is turning point form. What I've done is move from expanded form to turning point form by completing the square. And we can see that in this case, the turning point would be at minus 3 and minus 4. So let's go down and do the next one. All right, now this one's slightly different because it has a negative out the front. What I suggest you do with these ones that do have a negative front out the front is take the negative 1 out as a factor. What hopefully we also can recognize is if there's a negative out the front, it means the graph's going to have that shape. So it's going to be a smiley face. I mean a sad face, sorry. All right, so I want to take that negative 1 out so it's a bit easier for me. If I take that negative 1 out, that means there's going to be negative 8x and plus 12. Okay, now I'm going to sort of forget about this, ignore that for the time being. I'm only focusing on what's going on here, but I want to do the same steps as I did up there. So I'm making my perfect square. Okay, so with this one, for it to be a perfect square, I need this number to be half and squared this. So half of this is minus 4. Squared is plus 16. So I've got my plus 16, but I can't just pull a 16 out of thin air. I need to take it away as well, and I can't forget about my other number, which was 12. So the bit that I'm really focusing on right now is this bit here, which I can factorize. All right, so my negative 1's at the front. Now I've used a different sort of bracket here just so we can notice the difference between the two brackets, but I'm factorizing this bit now. So this is going to become x, because there's a minus there, it's minus, and then the square root of 16, which is 4. So we factorize that blue bit, but let's not forget about over here either, which is minus 4. Okay, now we had that negative 1 out the front. that -1 applies to both of these things inside. The -1 applies to this, but also this here as well. So I'm actually going to expand this square bracket and see what we get. Cool. So I've expanded it, and now we're in turning point form. We can see the turning point is going to be at 4 and 4, but this negative out the front signifies that it's going to be a sad face shaped graph. Now these two here, we could actually sketch them using the exact same method that we did up here. Have a look at the questions that I've got for you today, Year 10, and let me know if you need a hand.